The recording is now in progress, and I will start the transcript. And Alex, it's on you. Smile for us. No
Thanks, Marshall.
problem.
All right, folks. Hi. Today is February 8th, 2023. Welcome to the CALPADS Q A. My name is Alex Manriquez, and I'm a data analyst at CISA supporting CALPADS. Driving for us today is Gary Gerwer, as usual, saying hi there.
Hello.
In terms of announcements, Fall 2 is right around the corner. The deadline is still February 24th. And there's no word yet about pushing that out. So be mindful that that's coming up real quick. We have 2 holidays coming up for us at CSIS. I don't know if CDE also, but we are out on holiday next 2 Mondays. So February 13th and February 20th. So there will be no service desk support for the next 2 Mondays. That is it for me in terms of announcements. So Angela or Martha?
Yeah, Gary, if you could navigate to the active and known issues. So there in the footer of CALPADS. Hopefully you just opened that recently, Gary. What's the timestamp on that? There you go. Updated as 3 p.m. So just recently we got all the fixes that went in yesterday. I do want to point out, if you do a search for 6487, everybody's favorite, CRSE 274, Fall 2, it's been over triggering for quite a while now. We got a fix that went in yesterday morning, but I sent it back. It's not working quite right still. So unfortunately, that one's still hanging out there. And then that one right below it, Gary, 6488. I haven't updated that one as fix implemented because it's kind of hit and miss. So some LEAs I'm seeing the ERDs now and some I'm not. And so I'm trying to get to the bottom of that before I update that problem ticket. And that's all I had. Martha, do you have anything?
No, sorry. Had a hard time finding my mute button. I have nothing else to add.
All right, so then we'll get started here. And we're starting with Denise from Palo Alto. Question 1, what is the correct way to report SAS and CRSE for a teacher with mod severe special ed credentials providing instructions at home for students at multiple sites? The staff assignment is 27, and the course section has a state course code of 9231 with a 700 strategy code. But what about SE student course section enrollment? Optional? Karen answered it for us. So yes, it is optional for any job assignment that is 27. CALPADS is not going to require you to give us the student course section enrollment. So you don't have to give us that file for that specific teacher. Moving on to Marcy from Design Tech. Question 1, do you know when the February direct cert will be available? There was a bug on this, right? On the direct cert?
You know, I would have expected it to load last night. We got the results back yesterday. So it's a good question, Marcy. I will follow up on that. What bug are you thinking about, Alex?
I thought there was a bug, I don't know if yesterday or Monday, about direct cert. Something worked.
Oh, you know, I was out on Monday, so I might have missed that. So I will go digging.
Yeah.
I don't recall. And I was here.
That was yesterday. Okay, well.
I'll chime in if I find out anything on this call.
Okay, sounds good. Alex, you are funny. I'm not speaking to myself. Alex Young from Marin. Claudia Kemp, question 1. Is field CRS departmentalized core standards grade level range code required for self-contained courses? The FAQ says yes, but the valid code combos say no. Which is accurate?
That's a good one. Last year, we allowed you to populate that for the code 1000 self-contained courses, and this year we are not. The valid code combination got updated, but it's tripping a lot of people up. And so we were chatting with our requirements folks, and I think they're going to revert back to what it was last year. I'll know more tomorrow afternoon. So right now the system is wanting you to make it blank for self-contained classes. So that's one way to just get around that for now. Or if you want to wait and see what they say, if you don't want to go back, blank all those out. They don't use it for anything for the self-contained classes, so it doesn't need to be there, but it also doesn't really hurt anything to have it populated either.
Carol from Menlo Park, question 1. I still have a lot of CRSE 274 fall 2 errors. Has this been fixed? You sent that one back?
Yeah, I sent back this morning.
Ellen, question 1. Does the charter school non-certificated teacher code only apply to teachers given the 5-year grace period? Or can schools use it for newly hired staff? I don't know this off the top of my head. Maybe a ticket for this one so we can escalate, unless Tara's here.
If Brandy shows up. Yeah, send in the ticket.
Well, I believe it's a hard deadline on the academic year 25-26. So I think you could code a charter school with 26 now, if that's what you're referring to, but come academic year 25-26, it might be removed from the code set or, made not effective for that year.
What class is that in, Nate, that we talked about that? Do you know?
I'll dig it up.
There's a Brandy in the, trying to see if that's Brandy. It just says Brandy. I wanted to make sure. Brandy, is that you? Okay.
Okay. Well, if she does come in, I noted it down, so we'll ask it again. Moving on to Karen. Question 1. In the CFS for the SELA file for the status code, the validation item 9 says, if submitted SELA record has an ELAS for RFIP, the status start date must be greater than 2/1 of the current academic year. Can students not be reclassified earlier in a school year? And yes, they can, Karen. A student can be reclassified earlier in the school year. They cannot be. So there's a validation that was just created this year where if the student was EL for this academic year, they cannot be RFIP'd in the same academic year before February 1st, but it has to be within the academic year, right? So the point there being that the student would have needed to have been at least taken the summative LPAC, which starts February 1st. So if a student has been EL for, I don't know, X amount of years, then yes, they can be RFIP'd in September, and that will be fine, just within the same academic year as when they were EL. Naomi, question 1.
And Alex,
yes.
So I am here. I'm sorry. I was still muted when you guys were asking those questions about the charter school teachers. Okay. So what was the question exactly?
She's asking if they can code the non-certificated teacher code for teachers that were given the 5-year grace period, or if they can use it for newly hired staff.
They cannot use it for newly hired staff. Super important. Okay. So those teachers that were existing staff in 2019-20 can continue to be reported as non-certificated charter school teachers up until 2025. Okay. At 2025, they have to have that certification. If not, then you cannot continue to keep them on your staff. They have to get their certification by then. Any new hires after 2019-20 must be appropriately certified. They must have a credential in order to be hired in the first place. So that's kind of a big red flag if you're hiring teachers that do not have any type of credential.
Right, moving on to Erica, question 1. A student has 2 SSIDs from the same LEA. How would clearing this up work since SSIDs cannot be combined? Would a ticket need to be submitted? Any advice is appreciated. You should be able to combine those SSIDs.
You won't be able to merge the enrollment records if they're both open. So one of them has to be in 470. So close it out as a no-show, and then you'll be able to merge them.
Claudia says, FYI, Torrance is looking for a CALPADS person. So
Oh, that's
there you
right.
go, folks.
Kay retired, huh? It was a while ago, though, wasn't it?
From El Tejon. I am worried about the outstanding known issues, especially student course section 128, having a medium status in the known issues. This will prevent me from certifying. Is there a way to move this up on the status list so that certifying on time is possible?
It's already been moved up, even though it says medium. We know a lot of people are getting it, and it needs to get fixed.
Which one is it, Gary? That one says fix implemented.
Oh,
Is that yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah. And there are people that are still getting it, but they are triggering correctly. People are trying to report self-contained classes for preschool students, and that's not allowed. Kindergarten is the lowest grade that you can use for 1000. So you should remove those preschool student course enrollment records to clear that error.
But you also need a new revision, right? To be sure.
Right. Everybody I checked quite a few today, and they were all preschool students.
okay. Then Alex had a question, but then immediately says, never mind. So I'm going to skip you, Alex, and go to Suann. Question 1 says, please update the Flash 207 to include the LEA where the students should be enrolled for the scenarios outlined. There is a scenario document, but they are not tied together. Sites need to see both said on instructions, especially for pending students. This would assist new and experienced CALPADS and SPED staff very much.
You should send us a ticket with that suggestion, Suann. That would help us a great deal so we can track it better.
Stella from Novato, question 1. If a literary coach meets with students and needs a section set up for them, would an appropriate course code be 9103 English support?
Okay, so could you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. If a literary coach meets with students and needs a section set up for them, would an appropriate course code be 9103 English support?
It could be English support, or depending on the grade level, it could also be reading support. So you could, we don't have a reading support code, but we actually do have a reading course code that you could use. And as long as you attach it to a job classification code of 27, pull out push in itinerant, they're a push in reading teacher. If a literary coach is the same thing, if they're a reading support teacher, then I would use the reading course code.
Anita, question 1. I have a special ed preschool class at one of my elementary schools. I still report those to CALPADS. If so, what do I use for the state course code and grade combination? And no, preschool does not report for fall 2. So no need to report preschool classes.
But do you report the staff?
No, the FAQ says not to report them. I think you can squeeze them in if you want to, but official word from CBE is don't report them. I can grab that FAQ if you want.
Terry's giving us the PM number for the direct cert error, I think. Shannon, oh.
Yeah, so you're right. I did find that, Terry, but that was for requesting it. We're getting some funky error when as a user you request it. But if you go to the homepage, the date that is in there is from January. We should have had a February result file load last night. So 2 things going on there.
Shannon, question 1. What is proper way to report a teacher that pulls out elementary students for PE, but that also has student assistants assigned to them? A percentage of FTE for 27 pull out and a percentage of FTE for 12 teacher with these student course sections reported. That's correct. So you would have two different staff assignments, right? Just as you pointed out. And only for that TA section would you report that student course section enrollment file. For the 27, though, you still need that course, right? So for both, you still need that course section enrollment record, but just the student course section would only be reported for that TA. Denise says, for my question 1, is the staff assignment of 27 in course enrollment 9231 correct for the teacher providing home-based instruction?
So home-based RSP, I mean, are they a resource teacher for home-based students, or are they providing primary instruction? I mean, we would probably need to know a little bit more information about what it is that student is doing.
Yeah, her original question said that the teacher with mod severe SPED credentialing is providing instructions at home for students at multiple sites.
So I wouldn't use 9231.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it is a valid combination though to be an itinerant job class 27 plus 9231, right? That's acceptable.
Yeah, I mean for district level, teachers providing home hospital instruction, yeah, you can have job class 27.
But you don't think 9231 is appropriate for this person?
No, I mean, if they're providing all subjects, it's probably more like 1000, right? If they're providing instruction, RSP teachers are support teachers. And the other thing is, it's possible that that teacher must have the authorization to provide instruction. So it depends on whether they're providing support or primary instruction. If they're providing primary instruction, you need to use the course code that represents the content that they're receiving. If they're receiving all subjects from this teacher via the home hospital instruction, then it's likely that they need to have the appropriate authorization for those primary disabilities.
The other thing I'm thinking now, because we're saying, you're reporting the job class as 27. So yes, the student course section is optional. However, if this is the only section for those students, you're going to trigger a Cert 77 if that's the only course this student has, right? Because you need to report what courses the student's taking. So you may have to report the student course section just so that on the flip side for the student, you're not left with that Cert 77. Okay. Heidi, question 1 says, following the guidance for using CALPADS for identifying students to survey for PSTS Fall 2 on the PSTS page is tough. Can it be clarified or visited in a video? The current Fall 2 training video of guidance does not match this page either. I am particularly stumped with step 2 when asked to download both the 3.2 and 3.15.
I think it's 3.20, not 3.2.
Yeah, it is 3.20.
I normally make the videos, and I suggest Kyron do this one.
So yes, Heidi, we can work on it some more. I think what made it kind of complicated is because last year we stopped counting the completers on the 315 and we created a new report, the 319 and 320, and you have to use that to find your completers. It's not going to be on the 315 anymore. So we're trying to, for last year and the year before, you use 3.20. For prior years to that, you use the 315. But we can work on simplifying. Kyron's eager to work on new things.
Terry Smith says, is fatal error SCSE 128 still a known issue? When you click on the error, there is no note of the known issue. And I think that's the one where it was fixed. However, if you were submitting student course section enrollments for preschool students, it's still an issue for you. So you should remove those preschool. So if that's the case for you, Terry, remove the preschools. If not, and you're still getting that error, let us know. We submit a ticket. We can take a look at that for you. Samantha, question 1 says, local assignment options. Can you explain the local assignment coding? I have some TOSAs who teach classes and mentor. Should the local assignment be entered on all their course sections? Where would I tag the teacher with the appropriate option with and without teaching classes? Brandy?
So first of all, if they're a TOSA, they're a teacher on special assignment. We do have a new TOSA non-classroom based or support assignment code, but the real important thing to remember here is that TOSA code only covers non-instructional assignments. Okay, so if you have teachers on special assignment who are still doing instruction, you need to select the appropriate course code, and you need to populate the specific local assignment option that they're on in order to be in that assignment. So I don't know if I'm answering your question appropriately, because it's sort of confusing because you use the term TOSA and we just created a new TOSA code. So if you want to provide some follow-up information, if that didn't answer your question, then I'm happy to answer it.
Kara from Plaster Selpas, question 1. There is still some confusion about whether infants need to be officially exited, send exit date and reason to CALPADS before their SEDS record is taken over by the preschool district. Does infant exit data need to be submitted to CALPADS? And if so, is this for all infants regardless of eligibility for Part B services?
So the short answer is Part C and Part B are two different programs. So by definition, when a student turns 3 years old, they must be exited from that IFSP because they are no longer eligible for Part C. So the answer is third birthday, whether or not they're going to be evaluated for Part B, that Part C record needs to be exited with an exit reason of either not eligible, okay, but if you select not eligible, CALPADS is going to expect a Part B evaluation to occur. The only options where a subsequent Part B record is not required is when there's no parental consent from Part C to Part B. And what's the other one, Joe? I can't remember. Withdrawal, right? So if the parent has withdrawn the student.
Yes, that's correct, Brandy. And CALPADS Flash 244 has some related information about it as well.
Okay. Moving on to Ray, question 1. We get the GER5 error for students that have a remote class enrollment within our district on the student course section enrollment file. Would we need an additional SENR record for the school the remote class is taken? If so, what would be the correct way to report out that enrollment in regards to the enrollment status? Sounds like a secondary enrollment.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So
'Cause
assuming
if they
that
just go to that school just to take that class, or if it's remote, are they like, logging in remotely via Zoom?
then that would be the same school, right? Or
Yeah, but another teacher is teaching it at another school. What do you think, Brandy?
I think secondary.
secondary enrollment.
enrollments, yeah.
if you add the secondary enrollment, then your course record would be just fine. It will go in just fine. You have to have the kid enrolled at the school in order to show them taking a class at the school.
All right, Mary, question 1 says, we have been given new codes for both job assignments and courses of 6028 for TOSA, 6029 for SPED case manager, and 6030 for program coordinator. I have created sections with these course codes, no students, and added these subcodes to the teacher 12 job assignments. Does this sound correct? I thought they were non-classroom based assignments.
Exactly. Yes.
I have it up on the screen.
Yeah. Oh,
these are non-instructional assignments, so they don't need courses. You need to report them in the non-classroom based or support assignment or in the staff assignment file, but not courses.
It's at the bottom of Flash 240.
Naomi, question. I skipped your question. I'm so sorry. You know, I think I said your name and then I didn't read your question for some reason. So I'm sorry about that. So question 1 says, we have a few students in a classroom-based course that participate in independent study. Who should be the teacher of record for these independent study students? Do they need to be enrolled in a separate independent study course section, or can they remain enrolled in the regular in-person course section?
So what's interesting to me is, are they participating in independent study? So it's an in-person class, but there's a few kids that call in remotely, and so I'm not sure I understand. I would need to know a little bit more about the configuration of the classroom and in order to answer that question.
So if you can elaborate a little bit, and we'll come back to you. Sean, question 1 says, I have a ticket that keeps getting lost in the CSIS queue. Hamster wheel. What do I need to do to get this resolved? And for someone to please see my message, please and thank you.
Yeah, I found it, Sean. It looked like it was auto-closed after a period of no response. And so I just reopened it for you and sent Walt a message to have him take a look at it for you.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Sean. I was working on that as Angelo was speaking, so I'll defer.
Or you could take it too, Nate, if you want. Looks like there's a couple requests in that ticket.
Christy from Fresno, COE, question 1 says, first off, my apologies if you already addressed this before I joined the meeting. Did the known issue for CRSE 274 F2 get fixed in the release yesterday? And no, seems like it didn't. So Angela, sent it back. And then we'll circle back to your question 2, Chrissy. And Terry says, just to clarify, for the error 128 preschool students, we need to remove the course record. That's correct. We don't report courses for preschool students. So remove that and it should clear up your 128 error.
Do you have to remove the student enrollment as well, or just the course?
Yeah, student course.
They have to, just in addition to that, if it's a SPED class, they have to adjust the job classification of the teacher. Because if it's 12, then you'll get a cert 79 if you take off the SCSC. So use a 27 to maintain the staff members' records.
Good point. Jeremy from Newhall, question 1. If we have a TK student whose parent has opted to remove them from school during the year, which exit code should we use? 140 or 450? And Gary's showing
400.
400. Because they're not compulsory at age yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Ray, I see your question 2, and we'll circle back. Angela posted the FAQ for preschool staff, and that is at the 317 timestamp. Swansetta, We have an incident where a student from one of our schools was walking home from school and was jumped by a group of students. One student of which was from another of our schools was already serving a 5-day suspension. Should this incident be reported to CALPADS, or is it up to the student's parents to just file a police report? Thank you.
I think that's a local decision.
But are you disciplining the students? Because if you're disciplining them, then you got to report it.
Yes,
Right?
I would agree. I would agree. But whether or not the incident is reportable.
Right. Because it
generally
didn't
it's-
happen on school grounds.
Right. But I think a lot of districts have policies about things like that. And so if your district has a local policy that says, you know, if the student was walking home from school, so I would check with legal or your administrators, your discipline administrator, to see if there's a policy on that.
Wendy from Lowell Joints, question 1. So what if you have a combo preschool and kinder class? How do I report those if they have the same teacher in an elementary school and you keep getting the 128 error? I can't seem to get an answer. Well, you could remove, I mean, it would be a manual date, right? But you can delete the student course section record for the preschool students, unless there's a way that you can get your SIS to not extract the preschool students from the section. And then Ellen, we answered your question, I believe. So put a check mark on that. Lou, question 1. I have an open ticket with Aries to assist me with course 584. Please don't shoot the messenger. They are stating that the suggested resolution is wrong or something is incorrect in the wording. I believe that the Aries extract is not pulling the college state course code when the course level is 24 dual credit, but they're saying the extract is correct and that the suggested resolution in the user manual is wrong. Please confirm that if the course level is 24 dual credit, the state course code must be CTE state course codes or college credit state course codes. Thank you.
I think that's the expectation. We restricted the use of the instructional, is it instructional strategies?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
We just did that last year, and Aries may
Right.
not have caught that we updated it, but that's true.
We
Anytime you're
restricted
sending,
it.
yeah.
Okay, so and talking to Sonsera, Yadira, question 1. I have one teacher who is our only independent study teacher for all our grade levels, K through 8. Is it okay for her to teach multiple subject elementary as well as for the middle school? She reported with a 1,000 at the elementary, and at our middle school, she has courses.
So she's got a multiple subject credential. And so, okay, so what was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's only one independent study teacher for all their grade levels. And the question is it okay for her to teach multiple subject elementary as well as middle school?
Oh, yes.
Course.
As long as she's on a ed code of 44865, right? So you can be legally assigned to teach any subject, any grade level, as long as you've got a full credential based on a bachelor's degree in student teaching, and you've got a local assignment option of 44865.
Lori, question 1. Is there any update about which credentials are appropriate for the new TOSA code? The CTC website updated with that? You know how there's
I don't think they have yet. I did get some information from CTC about it though, so if I can find it before this call is over, I'll post it in the chat.
But just so people are aware, CTC has a really cool tool where you can filter for the non-classroom based assignment code, and it'll give you what authorization or what is it authorization? What's required for the teacher to hold or the staff to hold. The same deal with the state course codes, right? So you can look up a state course code and it'll give you what CTC is looking for. So,
and Gary, if you go to the user manual, and I think it's the Fall 2 roadmap that Kyron put that resource in there. I think it's the roadmap, right, Kyron?
Yes, I've also pasted it on the chat.
Oh, okay.
It's under
Otherwise,
the photo roadmap, and then if you scroll to the assignment monitoring section.
yeah. Otherwise, you have to go to CTC's site to go find it. And this way, we put it in the user manual under Fall 2, so it's at your fingertips. Thank you, Kyron.
mm-hmm. At 3:24, Sue-Ann asks, says, I always wondered where the sun went at night. Then on morning, it dawned on me.
I like that, Sue-Ann, for whatever reason. Right in the middle of our Q&A. It's a nice little thought.
Appreciate it. Dira, I see your question too, so we'll come back. Margarita, question 1. For Fall 2 staff, how do we report a teaching assignment where the teacher has a SPED student for autism in her class, but a different teacher is providing the services? We get a CALPADS error code from CalSAS. Then another example is a teacher with a SPED student who has APE provided by another SEED. The teacher comes up as CalPADS error determination. So
Go ahead, Alex, take a stab at it.
all right. For the first scenario where you have a SPED student in the class, right, but the different teachers providing the services, the actual teacher record is going to have just whatever subject they're teaching. And it'll be a different course section for the teacher that's pulling or pushing in providing the services. So that would be the 27 job class with a course code for whatever support they're providing. And that course section makes sure that you're tagging it with an instructional strategy of 700. But the actual, the course in which the student is mainstreaming into, that's just your regular course. That shouldn't be tagged with a 700. It should just be whatever the subject matter is.
So that student's going to have 2 courses.
No, they don't need to, because the job class of 27 for the support doesn't need the student course section enrollment. You could though, yeah.
Right, and the whole point, folks, is that you will never flag a general education section as 700. And that was your problem. You probably identified it as 700. Anytime you do that, they are expecting every teacher assigned to that section to have an ed specialist credential that aligns to the primary disabilities of the students that have been identified as students with disabilities in that course. So if it's gen ed, do not use 700 and report the SPED teacher separately.
And then for the second scenario, I don't know, is it
It's
alternate
adaptive PE.
Oh, adaptive PE.
Adaptive PE, yeah. It's the same thing, yeah.
All right. Once that is thanking Sue-Ann, then we go on to Larnie. Question 1. For short-term enrollment 30 enrollment status, once the number of enrollment days gets to 31, the enrollment status code automatically changes in CalPADS to primary 10, correct? If so, does the status code of 10 become effective retroactively from the time they started as short-term enrollment? If yes, since this then creates a CCE between the two LEAs, is there a way we can track this so we can avoid a CCE and having to go back and change the exit date both in CalPADS and in our SIS?
It doesn't change 30 automatically. It's still a 30 for that school enrollment, but I think in terms of the anomalies, it would consider the dates. I think so.
It factors it in and considers it a primary after 30 days.
Yes.
But it doesn't change the code on them.
Right.
Right. Okay. All right, Carol, I wrote down your question 2. Going back. Angela from Bonita Unified, question 1 says, for Fall 2 specific files, can you please confirm if staff assignment, course enrollment, and student course section enrollment and PSTS are full replacement files, but staff demographics is not? And Kyron posted a link to the user manual that gives you a breakdown of all the different file types we have and whether they are, what type of processing is used for each one of them, and also which primary keys are being looked at. So super handy. I refer to this often. Fabiola, question 1, I think, says, we have an itinerant music teacher who teaches at all schools. Do I need to add a section at the district level using the music state course number? And I think we'd prefer it at each school level, right? Because the data is being used to track what services are being provided for students per school. So I think ideally we'd want it to be broken down at each school level and break down the FTE.
Yep.
Erica, I'll write down your question 2. 332. Cedric, that's for pre-kinders, pre-K. Make sure you delete the student course section enrollment record before deleting the course section enrollment. If not, you'll have to upload student course section file with Ds. But yeah, there is some funkiness when you delete one before the other, creates orphan records. Alrighty, Becker, any idea of when known issues for student course section enrollment 139 F2 and student course section enrollment 128 will be fixed? So 128 was fixed yesterday.
139 is the one that's having quite a bit of discussion still about those. It's basically the orphans that they can't see and you can't extract them out of the database either. I don't know where we're at with that. It's maybe
we're trying to make it visible so at least you can see them, but we don't have the solution would be to create a batch file to get rid of them because they are orphaned. You can't do it through online maintenance. So first step, we have to make them visible to you, and then you have to.
Although they're visible on the error list, is what I heard Marty say, right? So you can you get a sense of the section that it's triggering the error. But yeah, we're kind of running out of time on that one. So there was chatter about possibly disabling it for now.
Alrighty, so instead of we answered that, people are just commenting on that, skipping it. Naomi has more context, says, and this is about the independent study classroom-based course, says, occasionally students who normally attend class in person go on independent study for a few days per week. I'm asking because we work with an LEA that has a staff other than the teacher who helps with evaluating independent study work. Wondering if that other staff member needs to be reported as a teacher of record.
Yeah, and I would create a separate section for that teacher and the student.
All right. Dana, question 1. I have a site that allowed a 19-year-old sixth-year senior to take one independent study class in order for her to graduate. They wanted to make sure they did not collect ADA for the student. Since the student is tagged as non-ADA, I am receiving an SENR 556 error. What is the proper way to handle this type of enrollment?
Sounds like the enrollment status is incorrect.
Mm-hmm. And, I think it's just because the name of the status 50 says non-ADA that people think, okay, I'm not collecting ADA for the student, so therefore I'm going to tag them as 50. When really, enrollment status 50 should only be used for students that are enrolled in a private school, are infant, or are toddlers. Anybody else would be a primary enrollment or secondary if they're only taking 1 or 2 courses with you, right? So it sounds like this student should be tagged as a primary enrolled student because they're on an independent study class. And how you tag them for not collecting ADA would be something separate in your SIS. Blarney has a question too at 3:36, and we'll circle back. At 3:36 timestamp, Kyron posted the link to the CTC tool and also a link to our user manual. Marguerite is saying, what? It's not gen ed. And I think that's the question.
It had to do with the SPED authorizations. They were getting misassignments.
Mm-hmm.
So the other potential problem for that course is that you have two teachers that are ed specialists that are assigned to a course. One of the team teachers has the authorization for that primary disability, the other doesn't. That's just something you're going to have to provide to your monitoring authority. It's always going to generate an exception. I believe that this year CalSAS is going to evaluate team teaching, co-teaching situations by looking at collectively the authorizations for both teachers in that class. And if that happens, then this should not be an issue. So I hope that answered your question. If not, you can send in a ticket and they can send it to me.
Facia from Albert, question 1, 3:41 timestamp says, should we be reporting our preschool teachers as itinerant with 60/20 or teacher with 60/20? No, the 60/20 is the other code, right? So that will always generate a misassignment for you.
But you shouldn't report preschool teachers, period.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they already had the SDM submitted, the only way to get around a Cert 84 is to end their employment and put an employment end date, like a no-show. That way it doesn't create all this domino effect of cert errors.
Can't you just delete it?
Not if it's the only one.
Yeah.
No. They will. Once it's in there, it's in there.
Chewy from Oroville says, question 1 says, I have a certificated staff member that is teaching 70% of day and a TOSA for the other 30%. CalPADS will not allow me to show 2 assignments at the same site, so reports her as 100% TOSA. Is this correct? Oh, because
it's very likely because yeah. I see you nodding because you're going to say exactly what I was going to say. Go ahead.
I hope so. Well, because it's one job assignment per school, right? So both would be a job class 12. Is that what you're going to say?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, just one record, but so the job classification record in the staff assignment file, you're going to report their TOSA code in the staff assignment file, and then you're just going to report their course section in as a course section, but it just requires one SASS record.
And I think that's what Karen was saying there. But then Eileen says the reports show 100% as non-classroom based TOSA.
Because you don't report the second assignment, so it doesn't see the 2 activities or the 2, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just, it has the non-classroom based assignment as the TOSA with 100% FTE because the teacher.
But just remember that when you're looking at that FTE, it's not per assignment. It's for that job class. So the person is 100% teacher. And I'm assuming she's talking about 4.5, right? So 4.5, may mislead you to think that they're 100% TOSA, but the 100% of their assignments is the combination of their non-instructional assignments as well as their course assignments.
Yeah, there you go. And then 4.3 gives you the classroom-based assignments. 4.5 is non-classroom. So they should be on both reports then. And they'd be a 1 FTE on the classroom-based assignment report too, right?
I don't even know. The FTE percentage isn't even on 4.3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only that's the problem, is it's only on 4.5. That's why it's a little misleading.
Becca from Lancaster has question 1. Oh, and Mary, I see it. I see your question, but it's a question 2, right? So I'm skipping it. And we're going to Rebecca. Says, could I have some clarification for itinerant or pull out push in code 27 teachers, since it seems that we have gone back and forth with this as to whether we can assign a course and not enroll students, or does this only apply for certain state course codes? I see the note in the FAQs regarding says, note, student course enrollment records are not required for itinerant pull out push in teacher assignments, but I am trying to avoid getting a cert for 77. I have intervention teachers for reading that are push in, push out, and I am concerned about which state course codes we may use because I don't want to end up with a cert error. So the code 27, right? So the code 27 lets CALPADS know you're not required to give us a student course section enrollment for this teacher, because we're assuming that the assignment that the instruction that they're giving doesn't have an actual roster assigned to them, right? They're just pulling students in and out, or they're going into the classroom. Now, Cert 77 occurs when a student that's primarily enrolled doesn't have any sections that you're giving us. So CALPADS is saying a student that was primarily enrolled on census day, they don't have any associated student course sections. So that's the dilemma that you're getting into, is if the itinerant class is the only class that the student is enrolled in, then you do have to give us records. But it's not because there's a specific state course assigned to it. It's just that that one student only has that one class.
There's another scenario where you would want a roster, and if the student is receiving EL services, and if you don't give us a roster, then we're not able to say, hey, this student is getting services. So.
And Yadira has a question too. Or actually, we already answered this one, I think. Marshall posted the table of contents for the Q&A from January 25th. And Margarita says, thank you. And we already answered Naomi. Angela has a question too at 3:50. Beth, question 1 says, I am getting an error for my elementary school music teacher. No students enrolled in a class. I created a music course for him with 27 teacher code, 50 FTE at each site he teaches at, not middle school core. What am I missing? I wonder what error.
Yeah, what if those kids don't have any other course?
The job classification of the teacher was a 12, so I just told her to change it to a 27.
Got it. Oh, okay, I see. You did a whole troubleshooting there. Thank you. All right, so we are at 3:56 and we have several question 2s. We'll try our best to get them all. So we're going to start with Chrissy at 3:14. And let's see. Question 2 says, when will the fall 2 trainings be posted on the YouTube training channel?
I'm hoping some this week, some next week. The guys are working on them. The advance, I think, slide was close to having it ready this week.
Let's see, Ray at 316 timestamps. Question 2, how should we report a student that is currently enrolled in a private school but qualifies for migrant services from our LEA since we are their district of residence? The student does not have an SSID since they have never enrolled in a public school within California. So we would have to generate one with the non-ADA SENR record. If you do that, CALPADS is going to expect you to submit a SPED record for them. So if they're not receiving services for special education, then you shouldn't do that.
It's migrant ed, right? Migrant services.
I think she was saying it because they were proposing using a 50, and that's reserved only for SPED students.
Could they?
But,
Could they use a primary enrollment with the preschool? That's the way it was done prior to the case Mr. CALPADS transition. Preschool was optional, and a lot of validations do not trigger based on the grade level.
So here's my thing is, sounds like the student's enrolled in a private school. I'm assuming they're not a student with disabilities, that they're eligible for the migrant program. Those kids don't get SSIDs. You need to check with your migrant region about service to identifying students that are eligible for migrant services that are enrolled in private schools, but they wouldn't go in CALPADS if they're in private school. Unless they're a student with disabilities, and then that's different.
Okay. Moving on to Yadira, question 2 at 326. Question 2 says, for my teachers who are no longer TOSAs and now are math support teachers or reading, and I have the correct code and have marked them as 27 teachers, do they not need a job assignment code? Yeah, everyone needs a job assignment code.
No, the teaching assignment would be the course or the 27 with the course, right? You don't need a non-classroom based job assignment because they're teaching in the classroom. So the teaching assignment, and if you look at report 4.3, it says teaching assignment. Those are listed courses.
Got it. And that's what Karen is answering there. So hopefully that answers your question, Yadira. And next we have Carol at 3:30 timestamp. And question 2. Oh, geez. Sorry, folks. I got lost here. All right. Says we have school counselors who are also handling administrator, vice principal tasks like discipline. Code 400 is no longer available for administrator. So do I create 2 assignments? One is administrator, vice principal, and the other as student services counselor? Or is there another code I can use to replace 400? Thanks. To me, that sounds like 2, right? It sounds like a 10 and an 11.
Well, so you have a counselor handling discipline? Is that what I'm hearing?
Okay, principal tasks that make them handle discipline. So they're VP and an administrator.
Well, okay, yeah. So I mean, you're reporting a person's assignment based on the duties that they're performing, right? So if they were performing administrative duties, then you would pick, administrator. If they're performing some pupil personnel services duties, then you would select another job class. The point here is that school counselors are probably not authorized to do those things. So that's, whether or not that's appropriate and whether it'll be a misassignment is probably important.
But if it's what's actually happening, isn't that what they need to report, Brandy?
Sure, but they'll have to create an administrator job classification for a person who's not an administrator. That's going to force them to do that. But yes, they can do that. It's just probably going to be a misassignment.
Okay. 3:32. Oh, and we're past the 4 o'clock time. So if people have to drop off, totally understand. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to keep going though with Erica's question 2. It says, I am trying to edit an enrollment status code of 50 and an enrollment status code 250. It is currently listed as 10, but this student was only with us at the district school for a short period of time to get evaluated. When I try to edit records, I get the error which states invalid school can't have a non-ADA enrollment status, and it comes up with an SENR 556. Not sure where I'm going wrong, and any advice is helpful. Right. So if the student was enrolled at the district level for only purposes of evaluation, and the student was then evaluated as meeting or eligible for services under the ISP, then you would, guess you could no-show the district enrollment and do the private school enrollment with the status code of 50 as of the day that they started their services.
So in the beginning, because you're evaluating them, I think it was in one of the flashes that's why you put them at the district office to show that they're being evaluated and they haven't yet been placed in a different school. Right, 50 is.
So in
So
those-
she's trying to change. She's trying to change
Yeah, I
the
mean,
primary
those
enrollment
concerns-
to a 50.
At the district. Mhm.
The problem is the grade level.
How do you know what the grade level is?
Well, I'm looking at the
rules.
Yeah, the SNR
use.
00556. She's trying to change the student to a 50. Well, the student doesn't have a private school enrollment and is in kindergartens KN through 12. It won't work. That'll trigger the validation. So I'm assuming that the school is not a private school, and therefore that combination with the grade level, the 50 is not going to be accepted.
Yeah, she said later that it's a 12th grader and went to a private school after.
So isn't this where you give them a 10 at the district office, and then when they go to the private school, then you can put them in a 50?
Yeah, I think your suggestion, Alex, is correct.
Yeah. So the district enrollment, because it was only there for purposes of evaluation, the student never actually attended any school, then the no-show, its purpose, they were never actually enrolled there. And so you can go ahead and no-show that primary enrollment, and then it won't require you to give us any courses or anything else. And then the private school enrollment is needed to reflect that ISP SPED record, right? Okay, cool. Then we move on to 336 timestamp. We have Larney says, I understand that we will send a baseline records with our SPED students when our SPED students move to us from other LEAs. I also understand that when a student moved from one school to another within our LEA, we do not send in the baseline. How about when a student started with us at the beginning of the year, then moved to another LEA, then moved back with us again? Do we send a baseline, or is the original baseline record sufficient?
Depends what happened between when they left you and when they came back, right? So if they had other meetings at the previous LEA, that's what you want to adopt, because that's their active IEP.
It's whatever plan was in place at the time they returned to your LEA.
All right, 343, we're looking for Mary Masters. It says, regarding my question 1 about 6028, 6029, 6030 not needing courses. I guess this is a question and an FYI. Why would ARIES include these codes as state course codes? When I go to apply a state course code to my courses, these are choices. I know this is CalPADS, not ARIES, but I wondered if ARIES needs to know that these are not really course codes. Yeah.
Agreed. ARIES needs to know.
Okay. And then the last question 2 I have is from Angela at 350.
Yadira, 326.
That one
Oh,
jumped
Kyron
down,
answered
but then
it.
I got it. Yeah. All right. Question 2 says, for a band teacher who teaches after school at different sites and does not have students rostered to them or section records, how would their SAS be reported? I would think 27, because there's no students rostered to them, but they are instructing students, right? So you want to make sure that you're giving us that, and Gary has it up on the screen. It's an itinerant push and pull out.
So would you have an assignment at each of the schools that they go to?
I mean, yeah. And the other thing is, right, it's after school. So I guess the question would be, are they receiving grades and credits for this?
Yeah.
But yeah, if they are, then I would say represent what services you're providing at each of the schools.
Yeah, and if they're not receiving grades or credits for that particular band class, and it's only like part of an after-school program or something, it's not a course that we would expect to see in CalPADS.
All right, I think that's it. No more questions.
I have an update on direct certification file. It failed loading last night, and so they are going to try again this evening, and they're going to manually monitor it. But we also do have that other problem where you can't download the extract. And Gary, if you go to CalPADS, there are ways to look it up online. Actually, don't click on it. I just want to show them where it is because it has students' names on it. But under online maintenance, there's a direct certification link there, so you can at least see the kids that are newly directly certified there tomorrow, assuming it loads properly.
And one more question that I think we can squeeze in here for fall to the CRSE 274 bug. Is that scheduled for next Tuesday then, do we think?
Yeah.
It better be.
True.
Yes, I think they actually have a fix for it, so we might be able to catch it if they can test it sooner than then.
All right, folks, that's it. So thank you so much to everybody that came in and helped. Appreciate everyone joining in and helping each other out. Hang in there. Fall 2 is almost over. We'll be here next week.